All right, so today on this Warhammer 40K competitive battle report, we're going to have the T-Sons Grand Coven versus the Necron Starshatter Arsenal. So if you're wondering how these two armies match up against each other, you're going to want to stick around because we're going to take this 3-hour game. I'm going to be condensing it down into roughly 20 minutes, giving you what worked, what didn't work, and then simply just passing that knowledge on to you because I really do believe if one of us gets better, we all get better. So without further ado, let's get into it. So today we are doing Scorched Earth, Layout 2, and Search and Destroy. I do not play Search and Destroy enough, and I think it is a very good one to practice because it's the most different, compared to like Crucible of Battle, Tipping Point, Hammer and Anvil, because you got that little pocket to deploy in. So as you can see here, we got our deployments right here. We got the T-Sons in the house today playing Bryce again. He's in a really good spot. He owns Death Guard. He owns Emperor's Children. He owns T-Sons. So he's a great resource right now. I'll tell you what, to try to figure out how to handle some of these armies at the top of the meta currently. So going into this matchup, the biggest thing for me that I'm thinking about before we go into the scores is the biggest thing is trying to make sure I'm going to be going second in this game, and Scorched Earth going second, it's pretty good, mainly because it gives you the advantage to potentially burn your natural expansion in turn 4, and then at turn 5 you can move on to this objective and then also burn or something like that at the end of the turn. So Scorch, you have the luxury to play a little bit of a slower game, letting your opponent come to you. As far as unit count, it's relatively similar, and I'm looking at really trying to take what I can, getting rid of the Vortex Beast if I can early, and letting Magnus kind of hang around, but the same time, Magnus can't play super aggressive in this matchup just because I have the damage to potentially just like one-shot him from range, and Bryce wants no part of that. So we have Flayed Ones infiltrating here just to potentially get on the objective. We have nice staging here. We have the Hex Mark covering the home objective, and then he's within 6 inches of the command barge to give rerolls. And then we have 1 unit of Scorpex in reserve. We have Tomb Blades in reserve, actually. We have a single Locust Heavy Destroyer, and we have a DDA. So we have 4 different units in reserve. And then we have a unit of Crypto Thralls and Command Barge Reanimator on the table. All right, so let's flip over to the game, shall we? So the Awakened Dynasty barely edged this one out. Now, take it with a grain of salt. This is a practice game. We were both kind of testing a lot of different things, experimenting with a lot of different things. And I will say, this is one of the best parts about practice games with your friends and your fellow teammates is that, you can both like talk out a lot of things and talk out a lot of different strategies and things that you want to test. And that is what practice games are for. Try unconventional things, think outside the box, because you'll never know if it makes sense or if it works until you put it on the table and practice it. Like, obviously you wouldn't try to do this in a tournament game because you don't know what the results are going to be. But I can't stress enough, in practice games, like, enjoy them for that aspect of it. Yeah, it's not like a tournament game, but being able to just practice different things, different list ideas, different techniques is super fun. So reason why I'm highlighting that is because Bryce went first, and he wants to try something out. So he's been seeing some interesting moves of Grand Coven lately where they have the crystal enhancement still, so it gives him the flexibility to pick up a unit turn 1 and essentially drop it anywhere. Now, this happens during the command phase. It's not in his command phase, so it's not triggered at the end of his opponent's turn, which is super interesting. So Bryce going first, he's going to get Sabotage and No Prisoners. And this was kind of nice because it's synergized with what he wanted to do anyway. So we're going to fast forward here, and this is essentially us measuring out the 9s of this play that we're talking about. So he's going to experiment here and see see here how this plays. So he's going to drop in the Rubric Squad here. The Hex Mark is going to get a free Overwatch on this unit when they drop in. And so we actually pick up 1.5 Marines from the Overwatch, which was pretty good. And then he sends over a Vortex Beast right here on the objective, which in hindsight, he talked about after the game was kind of not a huge error, but this Vortex Beast didn't really have any reason to come out yet. If anything, it just gives me something free to shoot at the first turn. So, you know, just a minor error that he pointed out at the end of the game, which I completely agree with as well. This Vortex Beast didn't need to be there. But he does do a super spicy play. So he's essentially going to cast a spell to move these guys a flat 6 inches. So he can draw lines on these resources and these resources. It also gives him the flexibility to Doombolt the Hexmark, because now he can see it with a Psyker. So that's exactly what he's going to do. So he's going to one-shot the Hexmark, and then he's going to take the rest of his shots and try to do something to the Scorpex. But unfortunately, it wasn't enough. He actually, what did he do? He like supered his spell, but by doing so, he took D3 mortals, and of course he took 3 mortals. So he killed basically 2 more Marines from the mortals, unfortunately. And this is essentially his turn. So he's going to get a 4 on no prisoners because he killed the Hexmark and the Locust Destroyer. And he's also going to get Sabotage for 3 points. So he goes up a total of 7 in the first turn. And then and he's going to stage up this Vortex Beast right here. And everything else is going to stage up. So you have goats behind the walls. And, you know, he's got the Lone Op guys right here. Which you have to respect. 30-inch range on these guys. Lone Op. They're flat, decent amount of shots. I think they have like 18 shots or something. All damage too, so very good. And the key thing with the Hexmark is he took my -1 damage enhancement away right out the gate. I lost him turn 1, man. I was like, how dare you? How dare you? But let's go in the first turn here. So we get a tempting target and cleanse. So I've been pretty vocal about cleanse. I hate that secondary. Not because I don't think it's good. Me personally, if first turn, I feel like it's really risky just try to score that card. Like I always usually want to try to just cycle it or bin it for a CP. And then a tempting target, he's just going to make this objective right here, which I can't get this turn. So what I end up doing is I'm actually going to take a 0 on both of these cards, because what I wanted to do is actually discard cleanse the first turn to get a CP, and then a tempting target I'm actually going to hold on to because, he made the center a tempting target. That's what it was. He made the center tempting. So the reason for this is because I know that I can get the Vortex Beast off the table this turn with the DDA and the Silent King. So going into the next turn, it forces him to put something on the objective, either the goats or something else, if he doesn't want to give me a free 5 points. Because otherwise, then I just move up the Scorpex or something like that, and I get a free 5 points the next turn. So that was kind of my headspace going into turn 1. I could have spent the CP to discard cleanse because I had 2 cards that were potentially a dud. But yeah, that's basically what we're going to do. So what ended up happening here is we're going to stage up. And so essentially what we do here is we get a high enough advance on the king to line both Meniers here. I know from the picture it doesn't look like I have line of sight, but I could draw it to these little like tips right here, and then the DDA right here. So essentially we're going to do chip damage to the Vortex Beast, and then we can charge out with the Scorpex if we need to get a tempting target. All right. The Wraiths are going to stage up behind this wall. I don't really want to give him free mortal damage this turn. And the way that we're positioned, I'm in a place now where essentially I can just give him 5s every turn on primary, which I'm totally okay with because I'm mainly just trying to gun for the 15 at the end. All right. So we end up actually crazy spiking on the king. The king alone in shooting kills the Vortex Beast, which was insane. I was not expecting that at all, but that just happens sometimes. So we end up cleaning up all these resources. The DDA just fires here like massive overkill. But the Vortex Beast, they can be swinging because they have the 5-up invul and the 5-up feel no pain. 14 wounds, I think, or 13 wounds, something like that. So it's very possible if he spikes, I need both of these resources to make sure I get rid of the beast, but that was like solid. So unfortunately, the Scorpex could not charge, so I wasn't able to get a tempting target. So I ended up holding on to it going into turn 2. The reason for this play as well, and this is something that I still don't like for the person going first, is you're seeing this in full display where I intentionally get a CP. I'm going to save a card that I know that more or less I'm going to get 5 points on the next turn, and I'm also going to get a challenger card. All right, so we're going to pass it over to him. It's going to be top of turn 2. So Bryce is going to get a 10 on primary because he holds this objective and this objective, and he's going to get bringing down and a tempting target. Now, unfortunately, bringing down is going to be somewhat of a dud this turn because really the only targets are all back here, which he can't really interact with reliably. So that is probably going to be a CP for him. But tempting target, we just made this objective because I either want him to sacrifice. So you're seeing this unfold. So now normally, even though I don't like control these objectives right now, the flayed ones are just 1 inch off. I basically line the wall here to make sure that if he wants to interact with this unit, he certainly can. He can bring the Rhino over here. He can get the guys out and then Temporal Surge to get line of sight here. But I'm totally okay with that because then it opens up the door for my firing lane here. So these are really interesting things at high level of play that we're pointing out here and to think about ahead of time. And then the same thing here where the Rhino can go here. They can get out, Temporal Surge, and again, they're in the perfect line of sight, and he doesn't want to do that. So he's going to be forced to bring the goats out here to get tempting target, and then the same thing, he's going to have to bring out something here if he wants to deny 5 points on this objective next turn because I still have a tempting target in my hand. I think that's one of the cool changes with the secondaries, the ability to hold on to cards and not get penalized for it. And discarding at the end. It's a super strong play, and you're seeing this firsthand of how you can do this in competitive games. All right. So going into the turn, he's going to shift up resources, and then we are going to rapid ingress a DDA, our second DDA right here. Now, this is one thing I think a minor error on my part that I didn't necessarily need to do this. I don't think it's like the worst play in the world. But mainly what I really like about the list right now, at least with Starshatter, is having the Tomb Blades and the DDA potentially in reserve. It can solve 2 different problems. So in a situation like this where I have a Vortex Beast that has a really strong Overwatch threat, I don't have the luxury to rapid ingress in Tomb Blades because I'll just get on the objective. He's just going to Overwatch me like crazy, and I'm not going to take that point. We're trying to figure out ways to deny our opponent primary. And so the DDAs, playing them aggressively in matchups like this are, I think, really good because they're OC5 and you're just jamming a hole in their face if you need to and still are going to be able to do great damage because you're hitting on 2s and can potentially get rerolls. So we ingress in the DDA. He's going to fire some shots. I don't even think he had really any shots, to be honest. I think that was pretty much his turn. He moved up these goat boys, and yeah, that was pretty much the turn for him. So he's going to get a tempting target for 5. He passes it over to the Krons. Now, we are going to get strategic retreat for our challenger card, which is just get 1 unit in your deployment zone, 1 in no man's land, and then 1 like within 6 inches of a board edge or something like that. It was super easy. So we're basically just cashing in our secondary or a challenger card, and then we also get secure no man's land. So I couldn't have asked for like a more perfect pull to synergize what I wanted to do this turn. So essentially, I'm just moving the Scorpex out. Here, I'm just going to move out 1, so we get max secure. We're going to move out the flayed ones here as well. And then this is a really cool thing to point out. So the DDA, if you spend a CP, you can flat 6 advance it. So there was an interesting line where I essentially could move the DDA 14 inches, stay outside 1 inch of the Vortex Beast, and I could cut an angle to one of these Zangors right here. Now I told Bryce, I'm like, dude, this is like, you know, you can totally just like shift that one like back in, man. It's like totally fine. But you know, Bryce being the cool gent he is, he's like, nah, man, this is like how I learn. He's like, same thing I did with like your hex mark. I'm like, okay, man, this is fine. So I was like, I'm gonna get 20 shots though at the Zangors because I'm gonna be in rapid fire. So he's like, yeah, it's fine, it's fine. So essentially, that is what our movement phase is looking like, and it's going to be a pretty straightforward turn with the secondaries really helps. So I'm going to point out what we're doing here. So essentially, the flayed ones are moving up here. We have 2 melee threats. This is the problem part of having a big unit like this. Is you don't know potentially like where he can pull from, and I want to make sure that I definitely eliminate this resource. We are going to put a DDA into, or 2 DDAs into this Vortex Beast and hopefully kill it. I do move this CCB over to get rerolls on this one. So, I mean, that is just what makes Starshatter just so nasty, guys. I mean, as you already know, like the ability to move these DDAs and get within, or like still hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s, you know, wounding big targets like this on 3s, rolling 1s is just super good. So, and then we're going to line this here. So you're going to see this unfold where we just pick up quite a bit of resources on the T-Sun side this turn. So all of this is dead. All of this is dead. We don't actually get the Vortex Beast down. And that's just shooting in Warhammer, man. This is great to point out. Last turn, just the Silent King, just one-shots a Vortex Beast. 2 DDAs with full auras up, can't kill a Vortex Beast, you know? Like that. This is the exact things that you need to have backup plans for in Starshatter when things go wrong like this, or just making sure that you're dealing with certainties as best you can. So, and this is one thing, I don't think necessarily that I needed to move up this DDA on turn 2. I think I probably would have been better served to just save the ingress threat for later and just moving the race on the objectives just to deny the point and potentially burn, rather than giving him a DDA this early. So I think that was kind of a minor error on my part, even though like it wasn't bad. I denied primary. I killed some resources, but I think I could have done a little bit of a better play. So we are going to go into turn 3 now. We're going to give a 5 on primary now because he just holds this objective. He's going to get area denial, which he cycles, and then he's going to get recover assets and marked for death. So he's going to be marking these flayed ones as far as his gamma target, and then recover assets is, you know, easy peasy just with this rhino and then these guys back here, and he's going to call it a day. So we're going to watch him more or less just shift up his resources. Let me see here. So we do an interesting play here. Bryce played it right where I put a rapid ingress in a unit of Scorpex. Now, the thought process is that he has enough output with the firing deck to kill one of these units, but not both, and he has to go after the flayed ones. So it allows the Scorpex to kind of live freely right here. The annoying part with T-Suns is that they can just move backwards like this. So he's gonna make. I mean, they still needed like a 6-inch charge to the Rhino next turn. But I was hoping maybe he would slip up because the Scorpex also have a react move, or if he kills one here, I can just reanimate on the point and then still hold primary. So, but you know, he played it really well. He basically kept out of threat range, still was able to pick off the flayed ones, which you're going to see here. And then he's going to use the Goat Boys to just shred these Scorpex. So you're seeing kind of where the firing lanes are, and then Magnus and Vortex Beast are going to go after this DDA, which you're going to see unfold. So those resources are going to get cleaned up. This is essentially the board state going into bottom of turn 3, which we are also going to get a 5 on primary because we just hold this objective right here, and we are down a DDA. All right, so essentially going into my turn, we are going to bring it down and recover assets. Again, not a bad pull. I have basically an almost dead Vortex Beast right here, so that's going to be an easy 4 points for the Krons. And then we have recover assets, again, very easy because we still have a lot of little pieces you're not seeing on the board. But mainly we're just going to do that with the Ophidians. We're going to drop them down here, and then we're just going to recover with like the Catacomb Command Barge outside of the deployment zone. Great change to that secondary. not having to worry about, units dying before you score it, which is great. So now what we're doing, and this was another slight error, but Bryce let me adjust it, but now the race are coming out to play now, and to move on to this point and essentially attempting to burn the objective to force him to get on this point. Now in hindsight, I think I definitely could have played the race a lot more aggressive in this matchup. Maybe I'll talk about that towards the end. I don't want to caught up in things I could have done better, but the Silent King really didn't have much. I was debating on moving the king up to threaten this objective as well, to try to just get these guys off the table, but I didn't think that was really high value because he definitely has enough output on the clapback with these 3 assets to definitely kill the king. So I was like, all right, we're just going to stage him up, making sure he's getting rerolls on this DDA, make sure we get this Vortex Beast off the table. Let's not complicate it, and pass it over to him. So you're going to see that unfold here. We move up these Scorpex. We put the Tomb Blades back here. They were kind of underutilized this game. I really love Tomb Blades in this detachment. I think there are so many cool plays that you can do. It's a little bit harder on Search and Destroy, I think, but I think there is some really cool plays you can do with them coming out of reserve with the flat 6 advance. I'm just saying they can basically go 24 inches anywhere, and they fly. And you can go through walls. So I'm just saying, there's some cool combos you can do with that. But this matchup, it didn't come up too much, but I will say they were super clutch at the end of the game. So Scorpex are going to charge in. We roll a 9-inch charge, a very cool thing to point out. We move certain ones so that I can have one Scorpec here, and then on the pile-in, I can pile into these Zangors right here. So, and then we have one Locust Destroyer, a Heavy Destroyer right here. Okay, it's just a one, just anti-tank shot. So the Heavy Destroyer fires, or the DDA cleans up the Vortex Beast, bring it down. Heavy Destroyer fires here. Unfortunately, it misses. I'll talk about this unit after the game, my thoughts on it, but experimenting. We're trying things. And the Scorpex come in. The 2 Scorpex almost kill the Rhino, but I wanted to make sure that I at least had one. In hindsight, I feel like I kind of made an oopsies actually on this, because I could have piled in here and just put 2 Scorpex. I didn't realize, I wasn't thinking about that, on these Zangors here, and just making sure I get rid of this resource and then just tying up the Rhino. But instead I put 2 Scorpex into the Rhino, which I know isn't going to kill it. I think it had 4 wounds left. And then the 1 Scorpec went into the Zangors. It actually did 3 wounds, as expected. I thought I was just going to one-shot a perfect profile against him, and he rolls 555 up in bowls. I'm like, no! So I think maybe definitely the better call was to do the double Scorpex. That was a little oopsies on my part there. But no problem at all. Just learning the list here. So that is essentially my turn bottom of 3. Okay, so going into turn 4, Bryce is going to get a 5 on primary. He gets Cleanse and Assassination. So you would think okay, not the best pull this turn, because the characters are right here and right here and right here. So I was like, man, I'm just going to just a 0 on primary. Here we go. But you know how we talked about shooting, man? You just never know sometimes. So if I told you that Magnus just went to a full health Silent King, basically, in shooting, just one-tapped him, dude. Bryce did roll out of his mind. I think he rolled 6 dev wounds or something, on his big boy cannon. Oh yeah, you can see it over here. Look here. I'm just gonna zoom in. You see now, Bryce, you talk about my dice all the time. What do we got? What do we got going on right here, man? What's going on here, man? It's a lot of devs I see, man. It's a lot of devs. so freaking Magnus, dude, one-shots the king, and I position him in a way. This is one thing to point out with the Starshatter, is you're trying to position your pieces just over the firing lane, so that way when Magnus did shoot, I could react move 1 inch this way, a minimum of 1 inch, and be out of line of sight of these goats. That's a really strong play that you're trying to pull off with the Necrons, and specifically Starshatter. So he one taps the king, big sad, and then of course he freaking explodes. So he did like 9 mortal wounds, I think, to the freaking race. He did like 6 mortal wounds to the reanimator. So that was like super unfortunate. And I positioned it well where like even if he was partially wounded, he's going to reanimate 2d3 because next to reanimator. The techno can heal him. Don't forget about that. D3 wounds in the end of the movement phase. So, he just rolled well, and that sometimes happens. And this is like, again, something great to point out in Warhammer. There's always, it seems like in the game, there's always going to be one thing that just goes completely wrong on both sides. And you just can't get flustered. You just like stick to the game plan. How can we do this? So, and Magnus is pretty wounded. He's got like 6 wounds left after all of his mortals he's taken from these spells. So he's living on a thread. So he's going to get Assassination Cleanse on his turn. He's going to pass it over to me. So bottom of turn 4, essentially what we're looking at here is we're going to get a 10 on primary because we are going to hold this objective here, and then we're going to hold our home, which was super good because the race were able to reanimate on the point. We get Defend Stronghold, Establish Locus, and Mark for Death. So I make this my gamma target, and then I was torn because I wanted the DDA to fire at Magnus to try to get him off the board because I could move this command barge within aura range because I needed like 1 or 2 shots to connect. I mean, he could blanket damage. It was still kind of a long shot because he could blanket damage every phase, but he was so low. It's like, man, you got to try. I mean, the DDA's sitting there. He's going to have devs. You just never know. So, and then we're going to shift this Locust Destroyer over to also get a shot on him as well. So you're going to see this play out. I'm going to back up the Tomb Blade so we stay out of threat range of the Rhino. And unfortunately, we do not get Magnus. So this was kind of a disastrous turn here. In hindsight, another learning opportunity. I should have just kept not worried about charging the race in. I should have just moved them on the objective and just burn the objective. Again, just kind of like a mental block there of this unit, this game, but this is why we practice these missions. So we charge in, we don't kill the gamma target. We leave this guy on freaking 1 wound. The race just whiffed, unfortunately. And and we didn't kill Magnus. So not a good turn here. I don't even think we did a damage to him, unfortunately. So passing it over to Bryce here. This is top of turn 5. He's going to get a 5 on primary because he holds his home. So we're doing a good job of just holding him to 5s, and then you're going to see this more or less unfold here. So he doesn't move Magnus because I told him, I'm like, dude, I'm totally going to take the Overwatch if you move him. So Magnus stayed there. He's at a good enough range where he can fire this and eliminate the DDA. He moves up the Rhino on the objective. And I think he kills the Locust Destroyer, or he's not able to kill the Locust Destroyer as well. So going to my turn, we're going to speed this up here. So the Tomb Blades came in clutch because essentially what we're looking at the board state here, so this is a really good thing to point out, is this is a very close game at this point, okay? And if I would have missequenced things incorrectly, I would have lost this game, okay? So some things to be cognizant of here. Mainly the first thing I'm trying to think about is how do I get a 15 on primary? So the Tomb Blades, I just need to make sure that they stay out of Overwatch threat, and I can move this Locust Destroyer on the objective and burn it, and then still hold it because the Tomb Blades are OC2 each, okay? So the Ophidians I'm not going to pick up because I can move them 10 inches and then charge on this objective. The Ophidians are so good in this attachment, 15 attacks. If they're attacking something on an objective, they're hitting on 2s, strength 4, AP 2 damage. They are like the perfect profile to go into these guys for sure. Well, if they were strength 5, it'd be a little better. But very good profile into these guys. So we are essentially going to shift all of this forward and just try to all in this objective here. So that way I can hold this. I mean, it didn't really necessarily need to, or I needed overwhelming force and display of might. So you're going to see this play out here. We are going to, Tomb Blades are going to fire here first so they can fire and fade this way. And then we're going to fire this here, and see how much we can clean up. So you're going to see that unfold, and the Ophidians on a reroll on the charge connect here, and that's really all I needed to secure the game. So this is essentially the board state at the end, bottom of 5. So we end up cleaning that up. These guys are going to count as OC3 each because they're next to the barge, so it'll be a total of 6. And then we have this point, and then this Tomb Blades here at the end, and end up edging out 77-65 to the Krons. Very good game. Wouldn't read it too much in the score because we were practicing some things. I was telling Bryce after the game, like, this aggressive play at the beginning, I think it was interesting. I think it would have probably felt better if this beast probably didn't come out and it was still just staged like up here, because it just didn't need to come out. Or you put it like, or what it might have been interesting is like you put it here, hiding behind the wall, like, so then there's really no way. I mean, I could move the king over maybe to get a line on, but it's a lot more difficult for me to fire at him, and he's like a lot more annoying. So that kind of would have been an interesting play, because the Scorpex aren't going to kill him on the charge. But I think for me, the biggest things were I misplayed the race quite a bit this game. I liked the turn 1, but I didn't need to ingress in the DDA. I think I would have been better served just to play the game a little bit slower, get these guys on the objective, force him to commit over here, and then I can do a big clap turn on this. So I think I played a little bit too aggressive on this. And then I think the other thing is I'm not super in love. Like, I wanted to experiment with having the Locust Heavies, like single units of them, because you can drop them in. If they're hitting things on objectives, it's on like a 2-up. And then, if you're next to rerolls, they can still be very efficient. I think the tough part is a lot of times I've found in these games, like, they're not going after targets that are on objectives usually. So it's hard for them to really get their value. And I feel like having, like, just dropping this and putting in a unit of death marks provides a lot more utility in the game. Like, some things I was telling Bryce about what was interesting is that was never in a good position to get something on this objective, but this is like a perfect example of what death marks can do. Is like on Search and Destroy, when you're playing the race more on your opponent's natural expansion, and you're able to easily give them 5s, it opens up the door where you're not playing your natural as strong, which is over here, right? So it puts your opponent in this weird predicament because there's not like a juicy target there, but they also have to respect your firing lines because of Starshatter, where they don't really want to come over here either. And so that's where, like, in a list like Starshatter, death marks can actually get a lot of value, because all of a sudden you're like, all right, I'm just going to ingress death marks back here behind the wall, and you just score primary, and they have no way to interact with the unit. And there was, like, I think turns 2, 3, and 4, I had the options to do that. Very strong play. And the thing is with death marks, I mean, it's kind of nice too, because you still have 5 shots, hitting on 2s, if you're hitting on objectives. So I think they can still really serve a good purpose in Starshatter. But overall, if you stuck around this long, seriously appreciate you watching, and we will catch you in the next one.